Hey guys. So some of the things in this comment I'm about to read, uh I actually made a video talking about some of this stuff, but I didn't like the way the video came out. So some of this stuff that the person says I've already thought of. I didn't I think I recorded it like 2, 3 times. I just did not like the way it was coming out. So I'll point out the things that I had already thought about and talked about, but this is in regards to the heroes aspect, which is this thing right here. Um, so it's a bit of a long one, as you can see, but we'll get through it. Okay, so this is feel from Spiel Up. My first thoughts when I saw this armor is definitely some kind of mixed species of Zonai and Gerudo, and everything you pretty much mentioned afterwards is what I thought too. Gerudo, before because of the obvious reasons, the hair, the red hair, pointy ears, gold earrings, gold necklace, and gold clasped around the calves. The Zonai half, however, is a bit wonky. The green jewelry is obviously Zonai, but that's just about it. Um, so we have like the green, probably made from Zonite. Um, but you can see it's very like Mayan Aztec kind of inspired. Between on the arms and the way the animals look. Um, and I think we've got an owl right there, boar and a dragon. Or actually, no, that's probably the dragon, or that's probably the boar. One of these, all I know, owl, boar, and dragon, and that's what the Zonai looked up to and saw as painted as courage, power, and wisdom. Um, so that first one's definitely an owl. These look like tusks, so I'm thinking that would probably be the boar, and then the middle would be the dragon. Either way, it's an owl born a dragon in that order or other, doesn't matter. Um, the Zonai do not have particularly pointy ears like that. Obviously, we know. Look at Minoru and Rauru. Rauru's got long ears, and Minoru's kind of point upwards like that. So both Minoru and Rauru are either canine or feline. Because when I look at Rauru's ears, they make me think of a fennec fox. The fennec fox that lives in the little fox that lives in the desert. They've got the really long ears. That's what it makes me think of. Um, Also, if you see his teeth, those are not something herbivore would have. So he's not something like a goat or something like that. He's not an herbivore. He doesn't just eat grass all day. He eats meat. So he has those sharp teeth. Um, the Gerudos and Hylians do. The only two Zonai we've seen, Rauru and Minoru, don't have pointy ears like that. Meaning the shorter, you know, meaning these little pointy ears. Um, Not to mention the color of their hair in goes is the colored fur their ears too. Wait, color of their hair goes is the color fur their ears too, and consists of furrier textures and are much longer in length. I think they're talking about the ears still. Yeah, you can see like round they have little tufts of fur right there and stuff like that. So yeah, um, are much longer in length. I just now checked again, and he actually does have a tiny bit of fur below the helix in his ears, but still no sign of any red color as a full Zonai would probably should. Um, I don't know. I see gold earrings. I don't really see any kind of fur, because even on that side, you just see the earrings. Um, it doesn't really explain the lion-like tail. and animal-like feet, though. Rauru and Minoru are humanoid. Well, we'll get to that after we get through all this. But I also noticed the heel of the shoe looking a little weird, so maybe it's space for the back paw of his foot. Maybe it's more lion-like than I thought. Who knows? Even the skin color of the hero is damn near the same color as the Zonai jewelry. I too also thought it was definitely different from Rauru and Minoru's gray skin. Um, then I saw the damn gold whole headpiece on his forehead. Of course, my next thought was, holy crap, it's probably Ganondorf, which I've said. I said, wouldn't it be funny if like this is like a hero version of Ganondorf? Uh, just because of that gold piece. We've really only seen Ganondorf with that kind of gold piece on his head. I've never seen any other Gerudo having a headpiece that specifically positioned and detailed like Ganondorf's own headpiece. Who else has receding hairline like that? Now the greener skin makes a lot of sense. Even this dude's face is in a permanent death stare, which also it's gonna come out whenever it gets finished being checked. Um, but there are other Gerudo who have green skin, not just Ganondorf. So there's that. So at this point, I don't think. I mean, for some races, I think green skin is a sign of something. But for Zonai, it's hard to say because we don't know anything about them. We know they're animalistic looking in nature, but that we don't know anything about them. After this game that takes players sometimes seems to be 20, 30 hours to play, we still don't know anything about them. I mean, we know just as much about them as we did in Breath of the Wild. So we don't know. Some of them do have green skin or green fur, because if, or maybe they can be an amalgamation of multiple animals. So I don't know. Permanent deaths there. They even have the same waistband, but instead of Gandorf's white one, this one has the black bandages that go down to their thighs. Even has some below their gold leg clasps, and their left arm is wrapped up in them. Yeah. Well, uh, they have the same dark painted nails. Well, I mean, again, I think Rauru and Minoru have the same thing, so as you can see, her nails, they're not really differentiated from the rest of her skin. So they also have dark nails. So a lot of the stuff is just, you think it's making it, it's a big thing. It's not. It's Minoru and Rauru both have darker nails. Um, we even see when they show the close up of his hand, it's all lighting up at first, but then when it fades, it's black. So the nails really. I compare this hero's design to Ganondorf, and they look really similar in everything I just pointed out. It doesn't really answer who this is, other than they look alike. So here's some of my theories. A game theory. I was thinking maybe it could be a random green Gerudo girl, which it's not a girl. Really, look at it. Even Gerudo women, even in their society, they wear tops. This is clearly not wearing a top. You can see the tattoos going up to where the chest is. This isn't a girl. It's definitely a dude. So it's not a Gerudo girl or daughter of, uh, or anything, or daughter because Kome and Kotake existed and they were also green. Well, yeah, those two also green, which I say in the video that will be up probably tomorrow. I think in Gerudo society, green skin represents evil. You look at green skin. Every other Gerudo is either brown or tan or whatever, and then the only people who are green are the evil ones. Quinrova, Ganondorf. So I think in Gerudo society, somehow you can tell the nature of someone if they have green skin. It's almost like a genetic defect that happens in the hearts of in individuals whose hearts are evil. From the time they're born, it kind of shows you what kind of person they are. Because again, the only people who have green skin who are Gerudo are evil. Twinrova and Ganondorf. So, um, maybe it's actually a male Gerudo that wasn't Ganondorf. You know, that, I mean, it's still a possible. I'm still not tossing out that whole Zonai Gerudo hybrid. Um, it's looking less likely now because of what I'm going to talk about. But um, this next theory is a bit of a reach, not gonna lie. But what if it's actually a disguise? What if at some point he did get reincarnated as a young hero, but could only defeat Calamity Ganon under a Zonai disguise? But they messed up his lower half because wacky method or something, and also because time traveling. Yeah, that is kind of a reach. Don't sprain your back or arm. That would kind of explain why the shoes look badly positioned on the feet if he suddenly transformed, or maybe if it's like that to shrink all 8 feet of Ganondorf as Link's armor. Shoes. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with like a lot of the stuff they're pointing out. I think it's just stuff that they're seeing because I'm looking at the shoes and I don't. I mean, the way the picture is, it looks like things are wonky, but uh, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom does have some weird shading going on, and it can give illusions of wonky. It's like, look over here, you see 4 nails, right? And then apparently there's only 3, but it's not. You can see a fourth right there. It's just the way shading is, and so shading and positioning and all that makes a difference. But the shoes look like they're fine. Um, like the black right there instead of like the white ones, you know that. But it's definitely a male. Um, it's definitely not a girl because female Zonai, as you can see, even Minoru, with as revealing as she is, still wears a top to cover herself. Uh, this one, however, doesn't. As you can see, the markings are pretty much going up to the chest. So they're not wearing any kind of covering. It's not a girl, it's a dude. Um, Also, there was something else that made me think that it was Zonai. Hang on, I'll bring that up. That the barbarian armor. Now, I don't know if the skull itself is from Zonai, but considering we know Zonai are animalistic in nature. We don't know if they can take on the form of multiple animals, a combination of animals, if they are just comprised of felines and canines, but this looks more uh animalistic, especially with the horns. So I think what we're seeing here, and especially with the red hair, I think what we're seeing here and seeing here are actually original Zonai. Now, we know that Rauru and Minoru are Zonai, but they're not original Zonai. And we know this just from a simple line that Ganondorf says. He says, when your Zonai ancestors descended upon this land long, long ago, if Rauru and his sister were part of that, Ganondorf would have stated it differently. He would have said, when you and your Zonai ancestors. But that's not what he said. He said, when your Zonai ancestors descended upon this land long, long ago. So, meaning Rauru and Minoru are not original Zonai, and a long time has passed since the Zonai descended onto the land. Um, Meaning that the reason, and I've said this before with like when trying to explain it. So Rauru and Minoru don't have tails. The most animalistic thing about them is their head. You know, they've got the ears, they've got the teeth, longer faces. But other than that, They've got all their digits, both above and below. Um, so, and I've the best way to think about it is Zelda. Zelda, we now know, is part Zonai. Her descendants are, or her ancestors, um, are Rauru and Sonia. One is a Zonai, one's a Hylian. When it stuff like that, parts of, start to disappear. So parts of Rauru, that the DNA from Zonai. So if Rauru and um, Sonia have a child, son, daughter, doesn't matter. That person is now, I'm guessing, probably quarter uh, Zonai. And then that person say another Hylian. So the more they breed with Hylians, the less and less prominent and dominant the DNA of the Zonai becomes. To where somewhere down the line, you get Zelda, who is in fact part Zonai, but she exhibits no traits whatsoever because it's just such a small, minuscule amount that it's basically non-existent. She's not animalistic in any kind of form. She doesn't have a tail. She doesn't long claws or teeth or this or that. She looks normal, like a regular human being. So that's why I'm thinking that these and this are original Zonai. Something as simple as the tail. And then you could say, well, John, if this is supposedly the hero from the tapestry, well, we don't know anything about the Zonai. We know that they're very proficient in magic. We've seen that people with magic can make themselves live longer. Look at Twin Rova. They're, what, 400 years old? So this could very well be an original Zonai. So, because we don't know from the time they came to the world, came to the land, to the time that the calamity hit, we don't know how long that point was. We know that the calamity Ganon, or the calamity, hit 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild. But they descended to the land long before. This was like the establishing of Hyrule, or actually before that. So they've been around for a while. Like, we know that there are races in other things that can live for thousands. Look at World of Warcraft with the Night Elves. Illidan, Tyrande, Malfurion, they're all well over 10,000 years old. So when you're magically inclined and you have that proficiency in magic, and you do have somehow a blessing of the gods, you tend to live long. I mean, I don't think it's 10,000 years between the time they descended to the calamity. But again, we know nothing about them. We know as much about them now that we did in freaking Breath of the Wild. All we know about them is Rauru and Sonia are king and queen. They founded Hyrule. Minoru is Rauru's sister. They descended long ago. They had secret stones that amplified one's magic ability. And that's it, really. We don't know anything about them. So, for an original Zonai to exist up into the calamity and become the hero, it's not really far-fetched, since we don't know anything about the Zonai. We've seen two of them. We know their names, and yet we don't know anything about them. We know Rauru can repel and dispel evil with light. We know Minoru can separate her spirit from her body. We know that they were proficient in magic and technologically advanced. We don't know where they came from. We don't know how they died, or if they even died off. That's a completely other theory right there, which I'll probably do. But we don't know anything about them. But I'm thinking, since they are so much more animalistic than the two Zonai we see, tail, the feet, the more elongated face, we're seeing an original Zonai. Now, the ears, I don't know. I think maybe they didn't want to do that with Link's ears, which I would be stupid if they didn't. Because if you're gonna make a Zonai, because we see Rauru and Sonya or Minoru with long ears, so maybe it just sometimes they don't do things because programming problem or effect problem, of how these big ears would get in the way of things and clipping, and so sometimes it might just be a design choice. It's like, well, we want to give it the long because we know if this thing had uh had ears like that or ears like this, it would look so much better. But it looks so goofy. It just looks so goofy. Um, and I'm thinking that's just a design choice. Like, we don't want it to over because it's so decorated, and I think the ears would just kind of take away from it. So just keep with the ears. Um, but they gave him a tail. They changed his feet. But yeah, I think what we're looking at is original Zonai. I'm still not taking off that whole uh half Gerudo hybrid thing because I think that really would be a cool way to show that the hero doesn't always have to be Link. Because in every game we play, it's Link, and it's always a Hylian. So I think it'd be a really cool way to say, hey, the next Zelda game may not even be Link. It may be a Zora. It may be a Gerudo. But, I still think it's kind of their way of showing that because even if it's not a hybrid, and even if it is a full Zonai, they were apparently able to wield a Master Sword. So they obviously possessed the spirit of the hero. They showed courage, they showed selflessness, they showed that desire to protect everyone, and they were able to wield a Master Sword. If it is, in fact, the one on the tapestry, we know it's the Master Sword. So, which means it still happens after Skyward Sword, because Skyward Sword, that's when the Master Sword becomes a Master Sword. So it clearly does happen after Skyward Sword. Um, but this hero was able to wield the Master Sword in order to fight the Calamity. So in order to wield it, you need to possess the spirit of the hero, which shows again still that if this is indeed what we're seeing is a representation of a full Zonai, you don't need to be a Hylian or Link in order to possess the spirit of the hero, which what we've kind of been led to believe. That's why everyone you play as in these games are named Link, and they all look the same because of the spirit of the hero. But I think this is a good way of saying, hey, this is a full Zonai, but they were able to wield the Master Sword. So you can look forward to other Zelda games coming out where you're not playing as Link. You might have a Zonai with a Zonai name. You might have a Gerudo with a Gerudo name. Because again, we know that uh like Gerudo, even though it's all women and only a male is born every 100 years, we know there are people among them who can inhabit that, who can use that spirit of the hero. Look at Namuru. Again, the mountain. Well, we have a mountain named after her in Breath of the Wild. Uh, Naboris is named after her. They look at her and revere her because of how heroic she was. She fought against Ganondorf for their freedom. She was selfless. She was courageous. She was putting her people above everyone else. She couldn't, in sense, have the spirit of the hero. And so if she could possibly do it, any young Gerudo uh, could possibly do it. Or Zora, or whatever. So, if this is indeed full Zonai, God, early morning stuff, man. Um, so the hybrid thing I still like, but the fact is, either way, both ways, it's showing you You don't need to be Link or Hylian to have the spirit of the hero. Um, this I think was like their military. You know, when we know that there are things in their world that are resistant to magic, and when magic doesn't work, you need brute strength. Hence why the barbarian armor gives you attack up. Because that's, you can tell how vicious they looked, how brutish they probably were. Because in a world where sometimes magic doesn't work, you need brute strength. And that's where these guys came in. They're barbarians. Or they were a faction of Zonai who were just more savage in nature and who relied on and enjoyed tapping in more to their animalistic bestial side, and you know, they lusted for blood while everyone else was technological and scientific. This group was animalistic, you know, like I said, animalistic, bestial, um, thinking and living through pure instinct rather than higher functions. Um, it's either that or, like I said, it's their military, you know, because every technological advanced society has some kind of military. So it's either their military or it's just a faction that was just completely savage and um disagreed with what the other Zonai were. It's like, well, we have these primal instincts, we have this strength. Why don't we use it? It's like, well, why would we use that when we have technology on our side and higher brain functions and the ability to think out problems and think of solutions and um so but I think what we're seeing here is also an original Zonai. Unfortunately, they don't do too much with the armor. They give us the skull and some other little bones, and that's about it. It's not as detailed as that, but that's at least what I think. Because it is found in Faron Woods, or not Faron Woods, Faron region, where like the most concentrated Zonai stuff is. So I think those were just like it's almost like an Amazonian type thing where you have this tribe that lives in the jungle and you know, stuff like that. But yeah, I think what we're seeing possibly is a full Zonai, hence the tail, the feet. Uh, the ears can be just chalked up to just not wanting to design ears that might mess up the way this looks and get in the way because we've already got so much stuff protruding out. You'd probably get in the way with the sword and everything else when it's swinging around when you're running. Because when Link's running, everything is like moving back and forth, and I guess clipping and everything would just kind of take you out of that immersion. Um, so, but like I said, it's just a theory, a game theory. No, I'm not doing that. But again, we don't know anything about them, so no one can say, "Oh, you don't. That's not a full Zonai." How do you know? Did Nintendo contact you personally and tell you that that's not a full Zonai? Because up until right now, we know nothing about them. We still know nothing about them. We don't know what the original ones looked like. We don't know how long they live. We don't know what kind of animal shapes they took on. We don't know anything. So that's why these are theories. Why no one's right, no one's wrong. So, anyway, that's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.